Our project recipe today is pumpkin spice from 2018. On the surface, this really does look like a fast and easy layout, but I noticed a couple of things that I want to point out. And that is, on this layout, the left and the right pages could actually be two independent layouts. Now, on this time, I'm not going to make it two separate layouts, but I may make it again. When we look at the sketch, on our left, we have our background paper, a large block of paper, a band of paper, and then two layers of a border. On the right, it's super simple. It's a band across the top and a band across the bottom. The typical project recipe has designer paper number one, designer paper number two, and a cardstock. And as usual, when I make the unclad project recipe, I don't put the mats down on the paper. I'm just going to make the base and put my own photos on. I'm going to use up my last sheets of the Cool and Candid designer paper pack. This is from 2022. I have this green plaid, and this is the back, and I'm going to use both sides. And for the background, I'm going to use the same paper, even though the project recipe shows a cardstock background on the right and the pattern paper on the left. And this, if you can see, these camera motifs are what is on the back of this paper with the stars. And then I'm going to use black cardstock. The cutting instructions call for the 3-inch bands to be cut from designer paper number one, and they will go horizontally across the right side. Now, I'm fortunate because I've picked a paper that can go in any direction. The designer paper number two calls for a 3.5-inch by 12-inch band and a 2-inch band. So my intention is to cut all four pieces, piece B, piece C, piece E, and piece F out of this plaid paper. Now the cardstock, it serves two purposes: cutting the 6x9 block and also cutting the chain punch. The chain punch is also to be cut from designer paper one, but I'm not doing that because I'm blending the cuts for designer paper one and designer paper two into one sheet. I won't have enough paper remaining to punch this, so I will pick something else to punch the chain with. So I'm going to get started cutting. So for my first sheet of designer paper, I'm going to cut two pieces at 3 inches, one piece at 3.5, and one piece at 2 inches. So I'm left with this 1/2-inch strip is all the waste I'm making. Next, I'm going to cut the black at 6 inches by 9 inches. And if you wonder why I have the old trimmer, it's because I keep selling the new one. I bought one, and before I opened it, a customer wanted to buy it. I said, sure, I'll get another one. I bought the second one. A customer wanted to buy it. I said, sure, I'll get another one. By the way, if you're interested in being a CM advisor, and I'm a hobbyist. Next, I'm about to make the punches, and they are both on the left side. There's a chain that's punched 2 times in 2 colors and then layered on top of each other to create a shadow effect. And then there's this knockout style that is on the 6 by 9 inch block. So the punches that I'm going to use are 2 Boilermaker cartridges. This one is called the Diamond Chevron Chain. And for the knockout, I'm going to use the Dragonfly Boilermaker cartridge. But I noticed that this actually has a little edge. It's not going to be as strictly a knockout, but I really like that and I like the effect. First, I'm punching the Dragonfly, but note that it's not a full-size sheet of paper, and that's the beauty of it. You don't need a full-size sheet of paper. Now, because of the way that the Dragonfly punches, there is this little strip I'm going to show you. So I'm not going to start at the top. I'm actually going to start at the second one. See this little line here? I started at the second notch because this line can get jammed up inside of your cartridge. But by starting at the second one, the ends remain attached and keep that problem from happening. I'm noticing now, after the fact, that I was lucky that I have my dragonflies going in the proper direction. Now I'm using cardstock, so if I had needed to turn them upside down, it would have been easy to do. But I will just make a note that when using the Dragonfly cartridge, pay attention to the direction your dragonflies will go so they will go where you want them. Next, I'm going to use this scrap of this nice light green paper, and I'm going to use it to cut my diamond chevron. And because it's not wide enough to fit all the way over to the magnetic strip to be held in place, I'm just going to put some peel and place tape on the paper to hold it in place as I am cutting the chain. Some people use Post-it notes. That works just as well. And now I'm going to cut my diamond chevron. I'm starting at the second from the top again. And that's beautiful. And that used up almost all of this scrap. But as you see, and if you watch my channel, you know I try to get the most out of all of my scraps. I was about to cut my second shadow piece of the diamond chevron out of black cardstock when I realized that on this dark green, it wouldn't show. So I'm going to pivot and punch it out in white. Let's see how that works. I'm using a scrap piece of white, which is the back of an index page, to cut out my second diamond chevron chain. So we have a dry fit down of everything on our page now, and I think it's a beautiful layout. When you look at this bare bones, unclad project recipe design, it's really pretty. So I'm going to adhere everything down, and then we'll start putting our photos on. I'm popping back in a moment because I wanted to show how I'm putting down this border. Now this is 3.5 inches wide at the base, and then I have a 2-inch strip and my double shadow chain here to be put on, and it's still all in these 4 pieces. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put down my 2-inch strip, and I want to put it near the edge So I'm lining up my 3.5 inch strip, in this case on the 6 inch line, but it doesn't matter. And I want to put my 2 inch strip about 1/4 of an inch over from the edge. And I'm using my 13 by 13 inch mat to kind of help me align it and get it on kind of straight here. Next, I'm going to put repositionable on of my diamond chevron chain border. So I like to use my silicone mat when doing something like this because the paper on it doesn't shift. And this mat is certainly very well loved. And there's a rumor that it will return, but I don't have a date for that. If I do have a date, I will mention it in a video or even post it on the community tab for this channel. And I'm a fan of this shadow technique, and I really like how that turned out. And now I'm going to put repositionable on again and try to put my chain border here. In the picture, the border overlaps this 2 inch wide piece more, but the width of this border just makes it perfect for going right down the center here. So now I'm going to take our 3 inch border and I'm going to put it down about 1 inch from the edge of my paper. So in reading the instructions, it actually says cut a piece of paper to put behind the cutout. And I am glad I still have enough of this left over to do that. I think I like that. So I'm going to adhere the remainder of this light green polka dot paper that we made the diamond chevron border with and cover the back of this. So I put some paper to cover the dragonfly punch outs here, and I really like that. Even though it looked fine underneath that, I like that. And you know what? This made an absolutely beautiful layout. I really like this. So now let me get my photos put on here. I'm not adhering this until I see where my photo placement will be because I may want to move it up or down depending on how my photos work on here. And that's the point. I'm not looking at these project recipes for formulas for laying out photos. I'm making the background. And this is the Unclad project recipe. And I think it's gorgeous. I really love how this side looks. And I am not going to adhere this until I put my own photos down. Now, let me give you a glimpse into what the project recipe calls for laying out the photos. Here is the configuration that the project recipe calls for the photos. It calls for 2 horizontal 6x4 photos on the left, 2 horizontal and a vertical on the right. And I think this is an absolute beautiful layout design, and I can see myself making it over and over again. It's a beautiful wide band here, and then very simple layout with 3-inch bands at the top and the bottom on this side of the page. Keep in mind that you're not restricted to this design. The point is to get your photos onto the layout. And here's how my photos work on this layout. On the left, instead of a 4x6 and a 4x6, I have 2 3x4s on the top and the bottom. Now I noticed that once I got my photos on, I wanted this block to be about 2 inches from the bottom. And the instructions do not give you a clear position instruction. So it's eyeballing it, and this is what works for me. Now, on my right, I have these three photos, and instead of a 4x6, I have a 4x3, and it works just fine. And I'm thinking probably some journaling would go right here as a great filler for this spot. But while I like these photos here, the fact that they are not matted is something that I'm feeling I would like to have. And so there is a bit of this remaining. I may have to trim my photos down, but yeah, I definitely am going to add a mat. Now, the project recipe shows a mat for the bottom photo. I want both photos matted. It also shows a mat for the bottom photo on the left, which I don't see a need for because of how I have arranged this. Now, this also shows the bottom photo hanging over the mat and pushing it up more. And I don't think that's the look I want. I think I want my look with these up a little higher and these fully inside of the mat. And yeah. So I'm deviating from the layout design now quite a bit. And I'm going to trim these photos down just a bit and make a single mat to put these photos in. Mainly because this photo is on the lighter background paper completely. I don't see a need to mat it. But because these photos were hitting this plaid, that's why I want the mat. And this is the final layout. I just did minimal embellishment by bringing over the colors and papers from this Border Maker cartridge chain, the light green and the white, bringing them over here and just making little notched banners, and then bringing over the black with this punch for a camera. I moved the title from here down to here because I had more space. And because this plaid is actually rather busy, it's deceptively busy in my opinion, I didn't feel the need to add much more embellishment. I felt that it would start taking away from the photos, which I want to, of course, make the obvious point of interest of the layout. So I hope that you've enjoyed watching me undress and redress a project recipe, and that you'll like and subscribe to the channel and watch another video that is being recommended right here.